Hello and welcome to my channel. I'm Michaela Peters. Today I'm going to talk about Germany, and I think probably the title of this is going to be called 24 Hours in Munich. Yeah, I'm gonna try to do this real quick and then eat something and then go to the coffee shop, because on days when I'm feeling exceptionally unproductive, it means I'm going stir crazy and I need to leave the house. And I totally messed up my sleep schedule now, where I've been going to sleep at 11 and waking up at 6, which is not enough sleep for me. So then I have to take some weird nap at some weird time in the middle of the day. And if I go to the coffee shop, sometimes it kind of helps me power through that. So that's where we're at. I'm also starting to get incredibly dismayed at the fact that things are still not progressing as I would like with my apartment, which means that when I go home, it's not going to be ready. I'm still drinking sparkling water. So I even had this idea of, like, maybe I'll just go stay with my mom for a little bit. Not that she really has that much room for me, but it's how badly I just really don't want to be home right now. I don't really think words can express that feeling. Like, it's kind of impossible. So whatever, I'm trying to be on top of things, and I'm trying to understand why I have this paranoia. And to be honest, it has to do with the fact that with Finland, I was not on top of things, and it ended up costing me like an extra $300. And I'm like, that's still several days worth of work, and I'm not about spending my money on that. So there we go. All right, so I'm going to read what I wrote, and I will publish this somewhere else if somebody else wants to read it. Oh yeah, the other thing is my cousin has her swim meet today, so I need to not be sleeping during those hours, which could happen, yes. But then I have stuff I need to do for work. It's just, there's a lot going on. Whatever, okay. And I'm going to be in New Jersey in less than a week, so the apartment thing is becoming, like, I really just thought if I was here long enough, it would just work itself out, and that's not how it's working. Very annoying. Okay, yeah, but we had the swim meet and all that fun stuff. But yeah, so I have this that I wrote. I go back and read it from time to time. I think it's hilarious. I'm very excited to share it with you. And if people really like it, I can publish it somewhere so you can read it rather than listening to me read it. But it's an unfinished piece of work, and I'm going to read it, and then I'm going to explain what I remember happened afterwards, because this has been now... This is from, I'm pretty sure the date was December 23rd, 2021. So obviously that was like 3 years ago at least. But yeah, so I'm going to get started reading that. And again, I had titled this piece 24 Hours in Munich. Okay. After pulling a semi-traditional all-nighter to catch my flight in Helsinki back to the US, I end up at the Finnish airport only to learn that my flight is 2 hours delayed, and I will therefore miss my departing flight in Germany back to the US. I was slightly dismayed because the sleep I intended to catch up on my flight home wouldn't come to fruition. I did, however, sleep on the train to the airport, utilizing my subconscious recognition of the upcoming stop to serve as my alarm clock. The one positive thing that came of this experience was that despite being severely overweight with my hand luggage, the airport apologetically checked my overnight backpacking backpack for free. I casually took a nap on a couch at an abandoned cafe in Helsinki airport, but was awoken by a loud French family who sat directly behind me. I suffered 4 gate changes, shuffling me back and forth between Helsinki's only 2 terminals, not once, but twice, while I assumed I'd end up stuck in Munich overnight, as Google Flights yielded no more flights back to EWR for the day. I boarded the plane without any concept of what would happen next. When we boarded, they made an announcement that they were aware that a lot of people missed their connecting flights. This hair's in the way. Okay. Everything would be settled and rebooked upon arrival. You also have to keep in mind that this is during COVID, like right in the thick of COVID. This hair thing, I don't like it. Okay. As usual, I passed out sometime during the taxiing process, and certainly before we were even airborne. I got lucky, sat almost in the last row, and ended up with a whole row to myself because the 2 guys who were supposed to sit next to me dipped and got their own rows behind me. I sprawled out and had a great rest. I would now collectively sleep a bit less than 5 hours for the day. I woke up right before landing. Once we landed, they announced that EWR flights would now be rerouted through Cologne or Hamburg. I was mildly disappointed, as I was significantly mentally prepared to be stuck in Munich for the night. Which is actually what happened. as we'll get to, but not so fast. Lufthansa emailed me suggesting to put me on the next flight out on United at 10:20 a.m. the next morning. Now that's silly. One of my new favorite hobbies has been utilizing 24-hour layovers to travel to a new country. I request to be on the 3:50 p.m. Lufthansa flight out the next day. They had no problem with it. The thing they did have a problem with, however, was how I proved my non-COVID infected status. I must say that this experience would further impress upon me my preconceived stereotype. And here it comes. I'm going to preface this with, I don't still feel this way, okay? This is really just because this experience was terrible. And that's literally what this whole thing is about, is how bad my first experience in Germany was. My preconceived stereotype that all German people suck, are rude, and annoying. I also decided that if I thought Finnish people weren't the best at customer service, they couldn't hold a candle to the Germans. I have now deduced that probably most airline service workers have not seen anyone try to travel to the US with proof of a previous COVID infection and recovery letter, rather than a negative COVID test, which was a thing, in case you didn't know. That was like the only other option you could travel with during this time. In Finland, upon check-in, I was asked where my COVID test was, to which I replied, I don't need one. This response was sufficient. The woman called over another woman, or two, and figured it out. When I arrived in Germany, however, the first woman I spoke to was confused about why my letter didn't explicitly say, is cleared for travel, and to end isolation, in quotes. I pulled up the CDC document I used to know that explicitly mentioning travel wasn't necessary, but it wasn't so clear for this lady, and she was afraid they wouldn't let me on the plane tomorrow. I offered to email the doctor who issued me this email and request that the letter be edited to explicitly include this language. I promptly emailed the mysterious and insanely helpful Finnish doctor P.R. Becca, whom I've never met, and I wrote, Hello, sorry to bother you, but would it be possible to update the letter you've given me to specify that I am both clear to end isolation and clear to travel? I'm having an issue in Germany, although Finland already cleared me to fly. If it is possible, I would need it by approximately 1300 tomorrow. Thank you for your help in any way. Best, Michaela Peters. As usual, PR Becca came in clutch. I actually really liked this person. I very specifically remember emailing with this guy and being like, wow, he's so helpful. And shot me back this updated letter sometime around 6:30 a.m., which was just in time for me to print it out at the hotel before I left. But alas, the hotel, how did I end up there? But first back to second German customer service agent, who prompted me to have a personal vendetta against all German people for the remainder of my trip. And that is, in fact, true. Before talking to her, German customer service agent woman number 1 at least rebooked my flight, transferred my luggage, booked my hotel, gave me meal vouchers, and told me how to catch the shuttle bus. That was all fine and dandy. Enter German customer service agent woman number 2, who insisted on mentioning to me multiple times that as Germans, they must follow the rules. Yes, as do the Finns, I think to myself, which I actually verbalize at some point. Well, Finland allowed me to use these documents, I say. Yeah, well, that's Finland, and they don't care about the US, she retorts. First off, I find it hard to believe that Finland doesn't care about the US, whatever that means. Second off, this has now become incredibly ironic because Finns are already super rule-abiding, so much so that I could barely imagine a culture more rule-abiding, nor could I have imagined a culture with overall worse customer service until this moment, and excluding the Finnish PR Becca and the random Finnish airlines woman at the airport who helped me make it to Russia. That's a different story, but that could be interesting. This conversation takes a turn for the worst when German customer service agent woman number 2 says a number of things that were totally inappropriate within the context of this conversation. Number 1, she touched on money matters. Number 2, she touched on the political situation. Number 3, she states the already obviously known fact that managing COVID is a universally impossible problem. Number 4, she gets mad at me for pulling up the CD website to show her that proof of recovery for entry is in fact an option. Let's break this down. German customer service agent woman number 2 can't understand why I was opposed to the test entry option rather than the recovery option. Well, I live in Finland. Testing in Finland is very expensive, and I am a student. Oh, so it's just about the money. Well, yeah. This is actually my entire pet peeve about traveling. And here we go. And here she's doing the stupid stereotypical thing that everybody in the world does and assumes that as an American I'm rolling in money. I expected more from you Europeans, but alas, you have failed me. But hello, priorities. Choosing to put money towards just about anything else but a COVID test that I don't need is just called smart money management. How about we put it towards the hundreds of dollars I spend on food every month living in one of the most expensive countries in the world? Okay, thanks. I digress. Now she has the nerve to bring up the fact that I could be carrying Omicron because it's so bad right now. I am coming from Finland, therefore that is a highly unlikely scenario. This whole testing thing is apparently so stupid because I could catch Omicron right now on my layover and bring it back to the US. Look, everyone knows how trivial, nuanced, and impossible it is to trace COVID. Can we not pretend like the whole COVID situation isn't just stupid, annoying, and kind of something we're all sick of stressing over at this point? Here comes the kicker. Let's now make this a casual political situation, which, as many of you should know from reading my comments, I really don't give a crap about. I'm like, I couldn't give less than 2 craps about politics, honestly, and I don't enjoy these. She says, well, Europe has been letting Americans in, yet the US now for a year and a half hasn't been letting us in. By the way, this was a bunch of crap, because there were certainly some German passport holders flying back to EWR with me the next day. But sure, let me blame this random American girl for the entire US COVID political situation. My reply, haha, well, I'm not sure why you'd want to go there right now. I barely want to go there myself, haha. I mean, obviously it's me and we know that I never really want to go back to the US and that was no different three years ago. It is also oodles of fun having both your parents write you, telling you to be careful because of Omicron, as if you are certainly going to bring it home from Europe. Hold up, let's not forget that I live in Finland, plus I am hashtag triple vaxxed and hashtag recovered COVID patient. Those things were actually true at that time. Yeah, I got COVID after I got vaccinated. That was so lame. I'm like, what was the point of the vaccine? Travel, obviously. After German customer service agent woman number 2 expresses her COVID qualms, which she has now rather personally projected onto me, we now get back to business. I bring up the CDC US entry COVID page to show her that it explicitly states that recovery is acceptable travel documentation. Well, I need to check with our regulations. Okay. Because I am almost certain that those are different than the official regulations set by the US government and the CDC. Now begins the saga of everyone talking to me in German, even after I respond in English. I walk outside and look for the shuttle. A random African bus driver guy asks me something. I reply, I'm looking for number 11. He probably says something like it's over there, but he points. That's also very weird now that I'm reading this back because most people from Africa do speak English. Okay. I now realize that the problem is probably that I respond appropriately, strictly based on context, so people just assume I'm German. Or that I understand it. That's not actually what I wrote. I wrote, people just assume I understand German, but people do think I'm German too, which gets to be the other problem. Yeah, I'm actually going to take a brief interlude to talk about that. I started doing this thing where I remember there was one time I just started messing with this guy, not to actually be dishonest, but just because I wanted to see what would happen. And it was this German guy who was like, oh, your accent is so good. And I was like, yeah, well, I'm actually German. And then he's like, really? How did you get such a good accent? I was like, I just watch TV. And he believed me. It was like a literal German person who just actually thought I was German. I'm like, how do you not know that another person is not German? That's like, I know when somebody else is American when I'm abroad, so I really was not understanding that. Other than that, whenever I would have people guess where I was from in Finland, most of the time they'd say Germany. Then I'd be like, listen to the way I talk. Don't I sound like a TV show? And then they just wouldn't really respond to that. Okay, so next thing. I tried to ask a random passerby where the bus schedule is. The response I got was something along the lines of, there isn't one. I now learn that the shuttle drivers definitely do not speak English, and I begin to feel nostalgic for Finland, where even bus drivers speak English, even if not well. Remember, the toilet is ice. Alright, now that was a joke because there was this Finnish bus driver who drove us to Lapland who meant to say the toilet was frozen and he kept saying it was ice. So that was something that had happened recently in my life. Alright, I get on the bus, ask if it goes to the hotel. The guy gets angry and points at the 2 hotel stickers on the windshield. The best part is that the bus stops at a random parking garage place and the driver opens the door for me to get off. He knows I'm going to the hotel. He doesn't care. I go inside and learn this isn't the hotel. I get back on the bus while the driver, who's probably Turkish, I'm not sure how I figured that out, I think I was listening to him talk, takes a smoke break. Finally, I make it to the hotel. The front desk customer service lady redeems my opinion of all of German customer service, even if only momentarily. She helped me get settled, answered my questions, gave me a toothbrush and a bathrobe. Remember, I had nothing with me because I already checked my bag. And helped me figure out how to get into the city center. She even gave me a map and circled the important stations. A+ for her. I go upstairs, get settled, and then use my dinner voucher to order one of 4 options. I chose a hamburger because fulfilling American stereotypes while abroad can never be done frequently enough. Plus, I accidentally slept through my airline meal and was extra hungry. I go upstairs for the night and try to figure out what to do about having only 1 pair of underwear and socks, so I wash them in the sink and use a blow dryer to blow them dry. I want to shower but have no hair tie. I find a small garbage bag and tie it around my hair to hold it up while I shower. I planned to do some work, but realized that nothing was going to happen except for sleep. Plus, if I woke up early and did it, I'd get hungry for breakfast by 6 a.m., which is when I booked it for. I went to bed around what I thought was close to 10 a.m., I probably meant to write 10 p.m. and woke up at what would have been around 5:10 if I was still in Finland, but it was actually 4:10. So by the time I went downstairs, it was close to 5, and I still had an hour for breakfast, during which I actually ended up doing my work, and that worked out well because then I was hungry for breakfast. I ate egg, sausage, and beans. I planned to take the 7 a.m. shuttle back to the airport, and that I did. I reached the airport and needed to recalibrate. I had no plan, and I had Tommy well. That was my roommate, who apparently never had a plan. I actually don't remember that part about being friends with her, but it sounds pretty accurate. I did something I never do, and I paid to store my bags while I walked around the city. But before I did that, I walked over to the information desk. This part is super annoying. To chat it up with another oh-so-lovely customer service rep. To be fair, she was helpful the first time around. She told me where to store my luggage, buy an S-train ticket into the city center, how to get to the train, and how to get off at the city center. I told her I'd let her know if I had more questions. I came back after checking my bags and tried to ask for more help with the train schedule, but someone had queued behind me and she impatiently cut me off mid-sentence and told me to go buy my ticket through the S-train desk across the way and ask them any questions I had. I walk across an open-air space to where the second half of the airport is. I ask a car rental person where the S-train office is, right behind me. This was, in fact, completely incorrect. Then I ask some older German guy at a taxi company. It takes him a while to realize I'm not speaking German, and the communication barrier was just too great. Then I talk to a guy in front of a restaurant. He tells me straight and then on my left. This was the only accurate sense of direction that I got after asking 3 people. And it was like right there. He tells me straight and then on my left. This was accurate. Now, at this point, I begin wondering, are they this mean to everyone, or is it just because I'm American? I don't know. For those of you who have been to Bavaria, you can let me know what you think about that. I'd also like to mention that I walked in a complete circle before getting a correct direction description. Now enter the most terrible German customer service rep. I felt like I was dealing with a customer at the restaurant who was overly determined to get money off her bill. The confrontation level was unreal. First, I had to show proof of COVID vaccination. They, of course, asked me for a test, but I give them recovery. Then I get demeaned for wearing the wrong mask, to which I am innocently confused. I ask why the one I'm wearing isn't satisfactory, because Bavaria requires the PMP2 mask on public transport. It's a law, and I should have read the laws, and maybe you should be nicer. I just say, well, technically I'm not even supposed to be here. My flight was delayed. At this point, I'm trying to understand what is up with this combo of COVID rules and an American that just drives customer service reps up the wall. I surrender and ask where I can buy the mask. The answer is the drugstore behind me. But first, I must say that most customer service reps themselves don't wear masks. Apparently, the plexiglass they are behind sufficiently protects them. Or maybe they're trying to catch COVID so they can travel with recovery notes, too. I walk in the store and select a hot pink PMP2 mask, try it on, and immediately feel like I'm suffocating. As I check out, the cashier says, "Oh, it's pink." I reply, "Oh, is there a restriction on the color, too?" I was partially serious, but nonetheless happy she found that funny. Finding the train was easy. I was at the end of the line, after all. I get on and witness one of the most beautiful sunrises I'd ever seen in my life, which I obviously took a minimum of 20 pictures of. I hear 2 Americans talking, who were likely Filipino. I guess I just looked at them and decided that. And I asked them where they're from. Wisconsin. They asked me what I'm doing here. Oh, the usual. Chilling on a layover, but I live in Finland and I'm on my way home. I tell them I'm on Fulbright. They seem to know Fulbright, or at least pretended to. Soon a tall German dude enters, looks at me, and walks past me. Then he comes back and sits across from me, hears me speaking to these other 2 Americans in a perfect American accent, yet looks at me and asks, "Sprechen Sie Deutsch?" Of course. Do you speak German? I reply, no, in English. The guy is in disbelief, and I am dead. My Finnish friend had told me that I would probably even disappoint a German person by not being German. I laughed, but he was right. Even in Germany, where I don't speak German, I am accused of being German. And now that I am developing prejudice towards Germans, I am starting to feel offended. I need to work on this. This random German dude, Nicholas, whatever, I'm not sure how you say that in German, temporarily redeemed the entire German population in my mind, despite the fact that he was probably hitting on me. Europe seems to be this parallel universe where I constantly get hit on despite walking around looking disgusting at all times, never with makeup, and occasionally not changing out of my pajamas. That's kind of an American joke and probably actually true in my case. We talked about the fact that I live in Finland, why I'm in Germany, how he recommends the Olympic Park to visit, how he worked for a hotel, how I lived and learned Russian in Kyrgyzstan, to which he replied, "You really know what you want in life." What do you mean? You want to learn Russian, so you go to Kyrgyzstan. Yeah, said no one ever except for me. This guy gets off. After a bit, I get off and say bye to the random Americans who happen to be on a family trip for 2 weeks around Germany and Austria. All right, so that's everything that I wrote. Now, there were a couple other things that happened that I'm going to try to explain because I didn't end up finishing this because I didn't care enough. So I remember trying to use the bathroom and finding this lady who was very obviously foreign also. It's like most foreign people are probably going to speak English, so I don't understand why they can't respond to me in English. Like, as if English is not easier than German. You don't have to deal with die, der, das, okay? And those never make any sense. I have studied German since then, and I'm like, I'm never learning this language. It is way too hard. Like, it's one of these languages that you're always going to sound like an idiot in. To be fair, Russian is that way too, because my grammar is never going to be 100% correct. However, I think German is still worse. Finnish is also going to be worse because the grammar is just too complicated as well. But whatever. So this lady, I'm like trying to figure out if I can use the bathroom, and I think I had to pay for it, and I didn't have any money, and I was like trying to figure out what to do, and then she just like yelled at me and got angry, and of course I had no idea what she said. And I'm like, seriously? Apparently I went to the American consulate. I don't actually remember that. I did see a piece of the Berlin Wall. I found it very weird that dogs walk off leash there, and they're so well trained that they literally just stay right beside you. I did think that was cool. There were rude people at a hotel. I don't remember that as much. And there was a random dude drinking a beer on the way to the airport. Maybe this was before I realized Europeans drank regularly, like in places where in America you wouldn't be allowed to. That would make sense. But one of the things that I remember was going to, this one was a distinct memory. I had nothing to do, so I ended up going to some museums, and I remember they like really didn't want to let me in once they saw my American passport. And then I showed them that I have a European COVID vaccination, and they're like, oh crap, we have to let her in. But I could tell they were like, just like didn't want to. So I don't know. I think I just came to the conclusion that people in Bavaria like really hate Americans. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm like never coming here again. This has been the worst experience of my life. And it literally took until like I had these pretty cool German exchange student friends at the University of Finland that I started to change my attitude towards Germans. I mean, I've since gone back to Germany. I went to Heidelberg and I stayed with a friend who's German, and she's pretty cool too. I mean, is she German? She's technically from, her parents are from Kazakhstan, so we're going to qualify that a little bit. But no, like I'm sure it would be fine if I went back and had different experiences. And when I was in Heidelberg, like nothing weird or bad happened that I recall strongly, at least. I was also with my friend though, and I wasn't alone like trying to ask people for help, so maybe that was part of the situation. But no, but like they were just like all so rude, and it was like everybody had an issue with me, and I'm like, I'm just here trying to do normal people things like buy a train ticket and rebook a flight, and you're all giving me a hard time and acting like I am personally responsible for COVID. I don't know. That was how I felt. And it was terrible. And then after that, I didn't want to go to Germany ever again. And then I didn't go to Germany until 2 years later. And that was just because I had a friend there. Otherwise, I wasn't going to go. So, yeah, like you're asking me like why I don't like Germany. Like I had a very bad experience in Germany, and that is still part of my memories and probably will never go away. So it's kind of low-key traumatic. I don't know. But I look back and I'm like, no, I have full understanding of like why after this I was like, I hate Germany, because it just makes a lot of sense. I don't know. So I hope at the very least that was entertaining. Like I said, I don't currently feel that way, but you have to keep in mind I've had 2 experiences in Germany, and one of them was pretty bad and the other one was pretty mid. So if we're going to average that, that's like slightly bad. It's not really a compelling argument to go back to a country. Alrighty, time to start my day and do my cafe routine and all that fun stuff and keep working. So until next time, bye.